Hey guys, this is Alachi, and this is my review for Wish. Wish is the newest Disney animated feature film, in which I think it's part of their centennial celebration, where they are celebrating 100 years of Disney, in which case this film has a lot of Easter eggs in order to celebrate the many classic films in which people know and have loved. Bambi, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. A lot of it's just kind of sprinkled throughout this film as kind of nostalgia berries for people who have enjoyed Disney throughout the years. But this is an original film, which is written by the same writers as Frozen, very popular, and stars Ariana DeBose and Chris Pine. Ariana DeBose playing Asha, a character who lives in the Kingdom of Rosas, and Chris Pine, who is playing King Magnifico. King Magnifico and his wife, Queen Amaya, have founded this island of Rosas in the Mediterranean, in which he has spent a vast majority of his life learning sorcery and wizardry in order to be able to grant wishes. And on the 18th birthday of everyone's life, he invites them to the castle to give up their wish to him, in which he holds it safe for them and puts it in his observatory. And once a month, he chooses a wish and he grants it. And Asha is hoping to become his apprentice, and two, her grandfather is turning 100 years old, and he's never had his wish granted in any of these ceremonies. And she's really, really hoping that he gets his wish granted. And so as she's applying for her job as the apprentice to King Magnifico, she is also kind of hinting and declaring that she would really like that her grandfather be given this wish, in which case King Magnifico starts to reveal like his motivations as to how he decides whose wish is granted. And then they come into conflict with each other, and then the movie progresses from there. This is definitely not a Frozen. Frozen, I felt like, was very much a film that could be enjoyed by adults. And this film is very hard G. The ways in which the characters interact with each other, and the way that the Asha goes on her journey, and the way she interacts with all the other characters she meets, is incredibly kiddish. I mean, we're talking toddler-like sense of character relationships and dynamics. You have talking animals, and it's just very silly kind of interactions. That's very not deep, and it's very unsophisticated. And that seems fine because you're like, oh, this is a Disney film, right? But I'm saying this is a Disney film that kind of skews very, very young in terms of how it is presented. Even in terms of the animation style, which I really enjoyed, it's still visual, CG, and done with computer animation, but it is made to look like a 2D storybook kind of animation. But I don't know if that type of animation is enough to compel children, because as I said in my Trolls review, there are a couple of requirements that I call them the babysitter qualifying elements, in which case you do need constant levels of action and events going on. You need a lot of dynamic character moments, a lot of highs, a lot of ups and silliness levels that just constantly increase. And then from a visual aspect, for kids to stay incredibly engaged, you do need those pops of colors. You need the confetti, you need the glitter. And this is very subdued. And I think that one of the most telling things for me when I went to go see this was that the children in the audience were kind of getting up and wandering around, and the parents were yelling at them to get back in their seats. And that already is like, ooh, that means there's just not enough engagement. And I found myself kind of like my mind wandering a lot during these scenes, because they were just so mid and not entertaining. It's just sort of like, oh, she's doing this now. Oh, she's walking through here. And just not a lot of pops of engagement. that I think make things more entertaining, or what kids need for entertainment these days. Now the voice acting of Ariana DeBose and Chris Pine was why I was like, oh, I want to check this movie out. Maybe this will harken back to Aladdin days or Little Mermaid, the time, Disney's like golden age, or the Renaissance age. And because these are two very, very strong voice actors and singers. And they didn't disappoint with what they brought, the level of energy they brought. But the songs, they were just okay. The title song is really good. It's got a good earworm element to it, but it's definitely no Frozen's Let It Go. And it just didn't pop the same way. It's very pleasant, but I don't think it's incredibly lasting. And then the rest of the songs very much felt like Broadway musical types, where I was listening to them and thinking, oh, I could definitely see high schoolers deciding to do a presentation with these songs because of the way that the dynamic of the chorus, etc. And they're more complex. They're not as musical or fun. And they very much felt like, I very much felt like I was watching an animated Broadway show. Now, while it is, like I said, a very hard G in terms of the presentation and the interactions of the characters, the theme of this movie was confusingly, at first, very, very mature. This is a film where I was just kind of very puzzled, because I was like, how are the themes so freaking mature and adult, and yet the presentation is so G? So let me just go ahead and give my assessment of this film, and then I'll go into my theories as to why that is. So I'm going to go ahead and give Disney's Wish a C-. It was very dull. I didn't find it entertaining. I think it's very forgettable, and I don't actually think it's going to be a good babysitter type film. I don't think you're going to see kids gravitating towards this on the iPad on Disney Plus, the way that they gravitated towards Moana and Encanto. I just don't think it has the replayability. And as much as it was nice to have those nods in the Easter eggs of all the Disney movies, it just wasn't integrated very well. And the character of Asha was written by the same people who wrote Frozen. And I'm telling you, it's like the same chick. It's Anna, Moana, Asha. You can call them different names, you can give them different looks, but they're the same chick. It's the same chick. Anyway, so yeah, C-. Okay, so now I need to put my tinfoil hat on. Okay. All right, guys. I was thinking about, I'm not sure I want to do this, because as I was forming my notes for this film, I was still I was racking my brain. Why is this film so G? Why is it so la 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 with the animals? It's so cute, blah blah blah. We're just all friends, and look at my amazing diverse group of friends, and we all get along, and we all have our own quirks. And yet, the theme of this film is super freaking adult, in which Asha is contending with King Magnifico, questioning his motives as to how he rules and his policies on ruling. And so then this is going to go into spoilers now. This is the way that King Magnifico is portrayed, is he is the holder of these people's wishes, and he decides whose wish he's going to grant. But the only wishes he chooses to ever grant are the ones that are the most generic, the most unambitious, because they will never threaten the kingdom. And when you give your wish to the king, you forget you ever had that wish. And so you live with the hollowness for the rest of your life, unless your wish is granted. You live with the hollowness of never knowing what your true wishes are. You don't know what your greatest desires and hopes, dreams, and aspirations are, because he takes those away. And Asha wants to give those back to the people. And that's a very, very grown-up theme. And so I was looking at the way King Magnifico, especially his performances and his songs, in which they constantly continue to develop his character. Chris Pine plays this beautifully. It's really well done. Where you start to see, oh, he's not that, his motivations are not necessarily evil, but they are not benevolent in terms of him looking out for other people. He has a truly singular ideology about what is the best way to rule his kingdom. And he doesn't believe anyone else should have control of that except for himself. So he has very fascist ideas, and that he also, when he's singing his songs and he's doing his solos, it's very clear he's narcissistic. Very, very narcissistic, fascist type ruler who doesn't listen to anyone but himself, and then delves deeper and deeper into the darkness until he's tapping into forbidden magic and spending his time trying to stamp out any opposition, and then crushing everyone's hopes and aspirations so that he can stand alone as the ruler with no one ever questioning him. He's very, very particular about anyone questioning his motivations, his rules. They should just be grateful and thankful for him. And you can see why I have to wear this tinfoil hat, because I was like, I was telling my husband, I was like, oh shit, this is what this movie's about. Oh fuck. I was like, I don't want to be one of those conspiracy freaking YouTubers, right? But I think that's what it is. And I'm not saying it's bad. I am not saying it's bad. But if you look at it, on their 18th birthday, they go through a ceremony, very much like on our 18th birthdays, we now have the right to vote. And in this kingdom, you give up all of your hopes and desires and your aspirations in life, and you relinquish that control over to the king, and therefore you have no autonomy and agency. You just are living mindlessly in this kingdom, and with with anybody who has aspirations constantly being dealt with by having your wishes removed, right? Or having your wish relinquished on your 18th birthday. And Asha and her friends, they're kind of like her little crew. They're like the seven dwarves, but they're more like her diverse friendship group, which is, I love to see diversity in films, but man, sometimes it just seems a bit much. It's like, it's like they're literally checking off every single box. Like, oh, that person, she's using a cane, and that one has glasses, and that one's short, and that one's a little bit, maybe a little gender non-binary. You just see it. You see it, and you're like, well, I would really wish you wouldn't just throw those characters in. It's nice that they're included, but it almost feels like it's, it seems a bit obvious. And I feel like that stuff should be more organic. And I like that Disney keeps trying, at least addressing these things, but man, they have failed so far at actually implementing. And so Asha and her friends, and that's the other thing, this diverse cast, they're all staff. They're not people in positions of power, and they all decide to band with Asha and rise up against the power. And so they do, and they get all the rest of the citizens to realize the that the King Magnifico is actually a narcissistic fascist leader, and they want control in their lives. They want to gain their wishes back and feel something in life again and feel like they have control over their own destiny. And so they all start a revolution. These kids all start a revolution, and the townspeople all rise up against the king and were able to overthrow him. And even the Queen Amaya, joins their cause, and she helps to rise up against the king as well, because she's like, well, he's just lost to the cause. I can't help him. He's never going to change. There's nothing we can do. He's a narcissist. Narcissists don't change. You can't make him better. He's already gone too far to the dark side. He has tapped into forbidden magic. Therefore, he can't be saved. And so in the end, they trap him in his magic wand in this little glass, very much like the magic mirror in Snow White, and he's locked up. Lock him up. He's locked up. And then the queen becomes the ruler. Yay, the patriarchy's gone and matriarchy. And I have, again, it's not that I'm against those types of stories. It's just so weird that such a strongly adult themes are presented in the most G movie Disney has done in a very, very long time, since maybe Bambi and Winnie the Pooh. So I was just like, oh God, they did that. Do I like it or do I not like that they did that? I'm not sure, because I feel like if they were going to do that, they should have done it a little bit more cleverly, and I feel like it was just a theme that they wanted to tap into. The writers wanted to tap into, like, for Frozen, they were very heavily into the theme of sisterhood, and also embracing your differences in life, something that makes you very different, like Elsa's frozen powers is not necessarily a bad thing, which a lot of people think is analogous for being gay. That's a theory. And then this one, they have this clear theme about not giving away not trusting all of your future hopes and dreams to a narcissistic fascist leader. Oh, okay. But see, maybe that's just a tinfoil theory, right? Like, maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I swear if you see this film, you'll find that it's just bizarrely has these very grown-up ideas, especially about revolution and fighting the power and toppling, a male-driven singular, especially a singular ideology that is driven by narcissism and control, and trying to take back, power for yourself in order to pursue your own dreams and have the opportunities to explore your own ideas for the future, and saying that anything is possible. Don't let the man King Magnifico tell you that you can't do that, or that because that might lead to something bad. Pursue your dreams. And and then Queen Amaya, she turns against her husband to help the people, which is great, but she doesn't shed a single tear for her husband. She's just like, and we're just gonna lock that guy up, and oh well, I was like, she didn't care. She gave him no shit. She was like, yep, I'm the leader now, yay. Everything's gonna be great now. And I was like, you don't have a problem with the fact that you have to deal with the fact that your husband is now locked up because he turns like a full psychopathic mode? No, she's just like, yeah, I'm cool with that. That's good, And then Asha becomes a fairy godmother. And, she's there to help other people pursue the things in life that can make themselves happy and make their dreams come true. When you wish upon a star, anything is possible. La revolution. All right, guys. Let me know what you guys think. I am not one of those people who's like, oh, Disney's trying to have propaganda against, or indoctrinate our young children, blah, 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 because I'm just like, if your concern is that your kids are being indoctrinated, do not let them watch media, period, right? They're being indoctrinated in one sense or the other by everything, every media out there, even just like them watching fantasy cartoons or fairy tales, those are all stories which influence your children. And those ideas become part of their psyche when they witness those things. And so I'm not one of those people who is anti-Disney, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, oh, that makes more sense now as to why I was so confused about why such incredibly mature themes are presented in this, and yet what I'm given is like, a film that I feel like 2 to 5 year olds should be watching. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that person who is all tinfoil hatty and shouting at the top of my lungs about how Disney's destroying our children, because I think that's bullshit. I think we're destroying our children on our own just fine by allowing them to be raised by freaking apps and YouTube and all sorts of other things we could talk about and go into, which would actually get me canceled, which, please don't cancel me for this. I was really concerned about bringing those ideas up in this review because I don't want to be part of that narrative on YouTube that is super conspiracy theorist about how Hollywood is, just brainwashing our children, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy it. I just don't. I think media has its voice and it has its influence, and even more so now on children than ever before. And if you don't like what a movie is saying to your children, don't let them watch it. That's all there is to it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And if you'd like to watch more, you can click right here or right here to watch now. Until next time, see you on the flip side.